On a small planet called BOUNDThey, life was hard. The sun was bright and the land was dry. People struggled to grow food and find water. They lived in small villages, always worried about the warlord who ruled over them. His name was Lord Garrick, and he was known for his power and cruelty. His son Ethan was just as feared. Lily lived in a village on the edge of the desert. She was a quiet young woman with dark hair that fell to her shoulders. Most people saw her as weak because she was small and slender. They did not know that. She was special. Lily had abilities that she hid from everyone. When she was angry or scared, strange things would happen. She could make plants grow faster, and she could move things without touching them. But she was afraid to use her powers. She feared what others would think. Every week, Ethan and his men rode through the villages, showing their strength. Took what they wanted and left fear behind. The villagers lived in constant fear of the warlord's son. News spread quickly about his latest act of cruelty. He was strong and he knew it. He enjoyed making others feel small, just like he thought. One hot afternoon, while Lily was collecting water at the village well, she heard shouting in the distance. She looked up and saw dust rising from the ground. A group of Ethan's men was coming toward her village. Panic filled her heart. She knew what this meant. They would take food, water, and anything else they wanted. Lily rushed home and warned. Her neighbors, Ethan's men, are coming. We need to hide the food and protect our water. The villagers moved quickly, but fear was in their eyes. They knew they were no match for Ethan and his men. As the soldiers entered the village, they laughed and shouted. They were tall and strong, their armor shining in the sun. At the front was Ethan, riding a large black horse. He had a proud look on his face, and his eyes searched for anyone who dared to challenge him. Lily watched from behind a wall, her heart racing. She could hear the soldiers ordering the villagers around. "Bring us your food. We will not ask again." Ethan's voice was loud and commanding. He enjoyed the power he held over them. Suddenly a brave villager stepped forward. His name was Marcus, and he was known for his courage. "We will not give you anything. We're tired of living in fear," he shouted. The other villagers gasped, unsure of what to do. They admired Marcus, but they feared for his life. Ethan's smile faded. He looked at Marcus as if he were nothing more than an insect. "You think you can stand against me?" said his voice cold. "I will crush you, like the bug you are." He signaled to his men and they moved closer to Marcus. Lily could not stand by any longer. She felt a rush of anger and fear for her village. Without thinking, she stepped out from behind the wall and shouted, "Leave him alone." The soldiers turned to look at her, surprise on their faces. Ethan narrowed his eyes. "And who are you to speak?" he asked, his tone mocking. "You are just a weak girl, should know your place." The villagers looked at Lily, unsure if she was doing the right thing. But something inside Lily stirred. She felt a power rise within her, and she did not. "Want to hide anymore?" "I am not weak," she replied, her voice steady. "You may have strength, but you do not have the right to bully us. We will not be afraid of you." Ethan laughed, a loud, harsh sound that echoed through the village. "You think you can stand up to me? You think you are strong?" He dismounted his horse and walked toward her, his men following. "Let me show you how weak you really are." He approached. Lily felt her heart pounding, but she remembered her abilities. She focused on the ground beneath her feet, willing it to respond to her will. The earth began to tremble slightly, and small plants broke through the dry soil around her. The villagers gasped in disbelief. Ethan stopped in his tracks, his expression shifting from amusement to shock. "What are you doing?" he demanded, taking a step back. He had never seen anything like this before. The plants twisted and turned, growing tall and strong, surrounding Lily like a protective barrier. "Stop," Ethan shouted. But Lily felt more powerful than ever. She raised her hands, and the plants grew even taller, creating a wall between her and Ethan. The soldiers looked at each other, unsure of what to do. They had always bullied the weak, but now they faced something unexpected. The villagers watched in awe as Lily stood her ground. She could feel the energy flowing through her, and she knew she had to use it wisely. "Leave us alone, Ethan. Your power does not make you right. We deserve to live without fear," she declared. Ethan's face turned red with anger. "We'll pay for this," he screamed. He turned to his men, anger boiling within him. "Show her what happens when you defy me." He gestured for them to move forward. But Lily did not waver. She focused her energy and commanded the plants to grow even stronger. Vines twisted around the soldiers' legs, making it difficult for them to move. They stumbled and fell, surprised by the sudden change in the situation. Ethan's eyes widened as he realized he had underestimated her. Lily was not weak. She was powerful in her own way. This moment changed everything. The villagers, once afraid, began to cheer for Lily. They saw her strength and bravery and felt hope for the first time in a long time. Ethan, feeling humiliated, backed away. "This is not over," he spat. "I will return, and you will regret this day." With that, he signaled his men to retreat. They pulled themselves free from the vines and hurried to follow him, leaving the village in a state of shock. Once the soldiers were gone, the villagers rushed to Lily, their eyes shining with admiration. "You did it! You stood up to him!" they exclaimed, disbelief still in their voices. Lily felt a mix of pride and fear. She'd shown her power. But she also knew it would not be the last time they would see Ethan, as the sun began to set over the village. Casting a warm glow, Lily realized that her life was about to change forever. She could no longer hide her abilities. She would have to embrace who she was and fight for her people. The battle had just begun. She would not back down. Lily understood that true strength came not just from power, but from the courage to stand up for what was right. She looked at her neighbors, who were now filled with hope and determination. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, and they would do it as one. After Lily's brave stand against Ethan, life in the village began to change. The people who once lived in fear now carried hope in their hearts. They admired Lily for her courage, and many began to see her in a new light. No longer was she just the quiet girl from the village. She had become a symbol of strength. Lily felt the weight of their expectations. She knew that standing up to Ethan was only the beginning. He would not forget the humiliation she had caused him. I had seen the anger in his eyes and heard his threat as he retreated with his men. He would return, and when he did, Lily had to be ready. In the days that followed, Lily trained hard. She practiced her abilities in secret, learning to control the plants and earth around her. She spent hours in the fields, focusing on her powers. She wanted to understand what she could do and how to use it to protect her village. The villagers watched her with growing admiration. They began to believe that they could fight back against the Warlord's tyranny. One afternoon, as Lily practiced, she noticed a group of children watching her from a distance. They giggled and whispered to each other, their eyes wide with wonder. Lily paused and smiled at them. "Do you want to learn?" she asked. The children nodded eagerly, their faces bright with excitement. "All right, gather around," she said, motioning for them to come closer. She knelt down and explained the basics of her powers. We all have strength inside us. It is important to believe in ourselves. The children listened closely, their eyes shining with hope. They wanted to be brave like Lily, as she taught them. Lily felt a sense of purpose. She wanted to empower the next generation. If they could learn to be strong, they could help protect their village. Soon, the children began to practice alongside her. They laughed and played, using their imaginations to create small plants and flowers. Lily felt joy in their laughter, and it reminded her of why she fought. Meanwhile, Ethan was not idle. His defeat at the hands of a girl haunted him. He returned home with anger boiling inside him. His father, Lord Garrick, noticed his mood. "What troubles you, my son?" he asked, his tone calm but curious. Ethan clenched his fists. "Girl, Lily, she humiliated me in front of my men. She thinks she is strong, but I will show her what real power is." He paced back and forth, his frustration growing. "I will make her pay for what she did." Lord Garrick listened with interest. He had raised Ethan to be a powerful leader, but He knew that true strength came from understanding one's enemies. You must not let your anger cloud your judgment, he advised. You need a plan to deal with her. If you want to crush her spirit, you must do it wisely. Ethan nodded, wanting to prove himself. I will gather more men. We will raid her village again. This time, I will not let her get in my way. The warlord smiled, pleased with his son's determination. He knew that fear could be a powerful weapon. The following days were tense for Lily and her village. Ethan's threat hung over them like a storm cloud. They prepared for his return, knowing that they had to stand together. Lily continued to train the children, teaching them to believe in themselves and their abilities. The villagers, inspired by her bravery, began to come together. To strengthen their defenses, one evening, as the sun set behind the hills, a meeting was called in the village square. Lily stood before her neighbors, her heart pounding. We have to be ready for Ethan when he comes back. We cannot let fear take over again. We must fight for our freedom, she declared. The villagers nodded, their faces serious. They knew the time for action was near. Marcus, the brave villager who had stood against Ethan before, stepped forward. Lily is right. We must prepare. We have strength in numbers, and we can stand together against him. Lily felt a surge of hope at their words. She looked around, at the faces of her friends and neighbors. They were ready to fight, and she could see the determination in their eyes. We will train together. We will learn to defend our home, she said, her voice strong. As the days passed, the villagers worked hard. They built barriers around the village, using wood and stones. They practiced fighting techniques, learning to work together as a team. Lily taught them how to use their surroundings to their advantage. She showed them how to create barriers of plants and how to summon the earth to help defend against attacks. Ethan, meanwhile, was gathering his forces. He rode across the land, recruiting men who were eager to join him. His reputation as the warlord's son fueled their desire to fight. They believed that a raid on Lily's village would be an easy victory. As the day of the raid approached, Lily felt anxious but ready. She gathered the villagers and reminded them of their training. We are stronger together. We can protect our home. We have come too far to back down now, she said, her voice filled with determination. The villagers cheered, their spirits high. They knew that they had to face Ethan and his men head-on. As night fell, they took their positions, ready to defend their village. The air was thick with tension, and Lily could feel the energy of her allies around her. Suddenly, they heard the sound of horses approaching. The ground shook as Ethan and his men rode toward the village. Lily's heart raced, but she stood tall. Remember what we practiced, she shouted, rallying her friends. Ethan led the charge, a fierce look in his eyes. This time, I will not let her stop me, he yelled. The soldiers followed his lead, their weapons drawn, ready to strike. As they reached the village, Lily raised her hands. The ground beneath them trembled, and the plants began to grow, creating barriers to slow down the attackers. The villagers fought back with courage, using everything they had learned. They stood their ground, determined to protect their home. Ethan was taken aback by the villagers' strength. He had expected an easy victory, but now he saw that they were ready to fight. Charge, he ordered, but doubt began to creep into his mind. This was not the same village he had faced before. With the chaos of battle all around them, Lily felt her powers surging. She focused on her abilities, willing the earth to help her people. She could see Ethan struggling to maintain control over his men, and she knew this was their chance. The battle raged on, and in that moment Lily understood that true strength came not just from power, but from the unity of her people. Together they fought back against the warlord's heir, determined to create a new legacy for themselves. The battle began with loud shouts and the clash of weapons. Lily stood at the front of her village, feeling the energy of her people around her. They had trained hard, and now it was time to show their strength. As Ethan and his men charged forward, she raised her hands, calling on the earth to help them. The ground shook beneath the soldiers' feet, and vines began to rise, wrapping around the legs of Ethan's men. They stumbled and fell, surprised by the sudden attack. The villagers took this chance to push back, fighting with all their might to protect their home. Lily felt a rush of power as she guided the plants to grow and entangle more soldiers. She could see the fear in Ethan's eyes as he struggled to take control of his men. He had never faced such resistance before. This was not the weak village he had thought it to be. "Fight!" Lily shouted, her voice strong and clear. "We can win this together." The villagers cheered and pressed on, using their training to defend their homes. They fought with sticks, stones, and whatever they could find. Their spirits were high, and they felt united. Ethan, realizing that his men were faltering, shouted, "Orders to regroup. Get back in formation," he yelled, trying to regain control. But the villagers pressed their advantage. They were no longer afraid. They were fighting for their freedom, and that made them strong as the battle continued. Lily noticed that some of Ethan's men were hesitating. They looked around, unsure if they wanted to fight against the villagers they once thought were weak. She saw an opportunity and decided to speak to them. "Join us." Lily called out to the soldiers. "You do not have to fight for a cruel warlord. We can create a better future together." Some of the men paused, considering her words. They had witnessed the bravery of the villagers and began to doubt their loyalty to Ethan. Ethan saw what was happening and felt his anger rise. "Do not listen to her," he shouted. "She is just a girl. You are stronger than this." But his words fell flat. The soldiers were confused. They had always followed Ethan without question, but now they saw a different path. Lily took a step forward, her heart racing. "We are all people. We can choose to fight for what is right. You have the power to change sides." A few soldiers began to lower their weapons, looking at each other with uncertainty. At that moment, one soldier stepped forward, his expression thoughtful. "I don't want to fight anymore," he said. "I want to help build a better life." His words struck a chord with others, and soon more soldiers began to join him. They dropped their weapons and walked toward Lily, ready to stand with the villagers. Ethan became furious at the sight of his men abandoning him. "You cowards!" he yelled, but his anger only pushed more soldiers to Lily's side. They saw her strength and courage and wanted to be part of something greater than themselves. The tide of battle turned as more soldiers joined Lily. The villagers felt a surge of hope as they fought side by side with the former enemies. Ethan, realizing he was losing control, grew desperate. "We will not lose to a bunch of weaklings," he shouted, trying to rally his remaining men. But the villagers were no longer afraid. They fought with everything they had, fueled by their desire for freedom. As the battle raged on, the ground trembled beneath them. Lily could feel the energy in the air, and she knew that they were on the verge of victory. Suddenly, Ethan charged toward Lily, anger blazing in his eyes. "I will end this now," he shouted, raising his sword. Lily took a deep breath and focused her energy. She summoned the earth beneath her, calling on the plants to rise and protect her. Vines shot up from the ground, forming a barrier between her and Ethan. Ethan's sword struck the vines, but they held firm. Lily felt the strength of the earth flowing through her. "You cannot win, Ethan," she said, her voice steady. "This fight is not just about power. It is about the people you hurt." Ethan hesitated, his sword raised. For a moment, doubt flashed in his eyes. He had always relied on his strength and the fear he instilled in others. But now, he was faced with a girl who stood firm against him, surrounded by villagers who believed. "In her, you think you can change everything?" he spat, his voice shaking with anger. "You will never be strong enough." But Lily could see that he was struggling. His confidence was wavering, and she knew this was her chance. "I am strong because I fight for my people," she declared. "You fight for fear and control. That is not true strength." With those words, she focused her energy, and the vines grew stronger, wrapping around Ethan's legs and pulling him down. Ethan stumbled and fell to the ground. The villagers cheered, their spirits lifted by Lily's courage. They had never seen a moment like this before. Their belief in her had turned the tide of battle. As Ethan struggled to free himself, he looked up at Lily with a mix of fear and anger. "You will regret this," he he said, his voice low and threatening. But Lily stood tall, her heart pounding with adrenaline. She had come too far to back down now. With Ethan trapped, the remaining soldiers began to surrender. They dropped their weapons and joined the villagers. The fight was almost over. The villagers surrounded Ethan, their faces filled with determination. They'd fought hard, and now they would not allow him to escape. Lily stepped forward, her voice steady. "You have a choice, Ethan. You can leave and never return, or you can face the consequences of your actions." She knew that this was a critical moment. She could not allow fear to rule their lives any longer. Ethan glared at her, his pride wounded. "You think you can control me?" he spat. "I am the Warlord's son." But even as he said it, he knew the truth. He had lost his power that day. The villagers had banded together. He was no longer the feared leader he once was. "I do not want to control you," Lily replied firmly. "I want to create a world where we can all live in peace. You can be part of that change if you choose." As Ethan looked around at the faces of the villagers, he realized that he was alone. The fear he had relied on had crumbled. He had underestimated the strength of Lily and her people, and now he faced the consequences. With a heavy heart, Ethan nodded slowly. "I will leave," he said quietly. "Psst, but this is not over." He understood that he had lost, but he would not give up easily. He would find a way to regain his power. As he stood, the vines loosened, and he slipped away from the villagers. The battle had ended, and Lily felt a wave of relief wash over her. The villagers cheered, their voices ringing out in celebration. Lily looked around at her friends and neighbors, feeling a sense of pride. They had come together to fight for their freedom, and now they had a chance to build a better future. The Warlord's legacy was beginning to fade. A new chapter was about to begin, with the sun setting behind them. They knew that this was only the beginning of their journey. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, united. In their strength and determination to create a world where fear no longer ruled their lives. After the battle, the village felt different. The air was filled with hope and excitement. Lily stood at the center of the village, looking around at her friends and neighbors. They had fought bravely and won against Ethan and his men. The people were celebrating, but Lily knew that their work was not done. As night fell, the villagers gathered around a large fire. They spoke of their victory, sharing stories and laughter. Lily felt joy in her heart, but she also felt a weight on her shoulders. She knew that Ethan would not give up easily. He was still out there, and he would come back. "Lily, you were amazing today," a young boy named Jason said, his eyes wide with admiration. "You showed him that we are strong." The other children nodded, their faces bright with excitement. They had looked up to Lily, and now they saw her as a hero. Lily smiled at them but felt a sense of responsibility. "Thank you, but we must stay strong. Ethan will not give up. He will come back, and we have to be ready," she said. The children's faces fell a little, but she wanted them to understand the truth. They had won this battle, but there would be more challenges ahead. As the villagers celebrated, Marcus stepped forward. "Lily is right. We cannot let our guard down. We must prepare for whatever Ethan plans next," he said, his voice serious. The villagers nodded in agreement, their excitement turning into determination. Lily felt grateful for the support of her friends. She knew that they would work together to defend their home. "Let's gather everyone in the morning," she said. "We will train harder and build stronger defenses. We cannot let fear return to our lives." The villagers agreed, and they began to form a plan. They would strengthen their barriers and practice their fighting techniques. Lily also wanted to teach them more about her powers, so they could use the earth and plants to their advantage. In future battles, as the fire crackled, Lily took a moment to reflect. She had never imagined that she would be in this position. Just weeks ago, she was a quiet girl, afraid to show her abilities. Now, she was a leader, guiding her people in their fight for freedom. She felt a mix of pride and fear, knowing that their future depended on her choices. The next day, the sun rose bright and warm. The villagers gathered in the square, ready to begin their training. Lily stood before them, feeling the weight of their expectations. Today we will work together to become stronger, she said, her voice steady. We will learn to defend our home and each other. The villagers practiced fighting techniques, learning to work as a team. They trained with sticks and stones, honing their skills. Lily watched them closely, offering guidance and encouragement. She was proud of how far they had come, but deep down, she knew that they needed to be even stronger. After a long day of training, the villagers collapsed onto the ground, exhausted but happy. They had worked hard, and they could feel the progress they had made. As they rested, Lily called them to gather around again. I want to show you something, she said, leading them to a clearing outside the village. The villagers followed, curious about what she had planned. Once they reached the clearing, Lily took a deep breath and closed her eyes. The ground began to tremble, and plants sprang up around her. Flowers bloomed, and the trees swayed gently, as if welcoming her. The villagers watched in awe as Lily demonstrated her powers. She could feel the energy of the earth flowing through her, and she knew this was important. Together, we can harness this power, she said, opening her eyes. If we learn to work with the earth, we can create barriers and protect our village. We can use these plants to our advantage. The villagers were amazed, and they began to cheer for her. Lily smiled, feeling encouraged by their support. Let's practice together, she said. I will teach you how to connect with the earth and use it to help us. The villagers gathered around her, eager to learn. Over the next few days, they practiced hard. Lily taught them how to feel the energy of the earth beneath their feet. They learned to call on the plants to grow and strengthen their defenses. The villagers became more confident with each passing day. As their training continued, Ethan was plotting his return. He was angry and humiliated by his defeat. He knew he could not let Lily and her villagers continue to stand in his way. Gathered a larger group of soldiers, determined to crush the spirit of the village once and for all, Ethan's heart burned with anger as he rode through the desert, rallying more men to his cause. We will show them what true power looks like, he declared to his followers. They think they can defy me, but I will make them pay for their rebellion. As he spoke, his men cheered, feeling the thrill of battle. They were eager to follow him, believing that this time victory would be theirs. Ethan felt the weight of his father's expectations pressing down on him. He had to succeed, could not return home empty-handed again. Back in the village, Lily sensed a change in the air. She felt a stirring in her gut, a warning that something was coming. She gathered the villagers and shared her concerns. I think Ethan is planning another attack, she said. We need to prepare ourselves and our defenses. The villagers listened closely, their faces turning serious. They knew that they could not underestimate Ethan again. Should we do? Marcus asked, looking at Lily for guidance. We must strengthen our barriers and stay alert, she replied. We will practice together, and I will teach you how to use the plants to protect our village. The villagers nodded, ready to do whatever it took to defend their home. In the days leading up to the expected attack, they worked tirelessly. They reinforced their defenses, creating strong walls of plants and stones.
Lily
Taught them how to summon the earth's energy to create barriers. They practiced together, growing more united with each passing day. Finally, the day arrived when Ethan was set to attack. The villagers gathered in the square, their hearts pounding with fear and determination. Stay strong, Lily said, looking into the eyes of her friends. We have trained hard for this moment. We'll not let fear take hold again. As they took their positions, the ground trembled again, but this time it was not Lily's doing. Ethan and his men were approaching, riding fast and fierce. The villagers could hear the sound of hooves pounding the earth, and their hearts raced. Here they come, someone shouted, and the villagers braced themselves. They stood together, ready to defend their home once more. Lily felt a surge of energy, knowing that they had the strength to face whatever came their way. Ethan led his men into the village, ready to unleash his fury. But this time, the villagers stood tall, united in their fight for freedom. They would not back down. They had come too far to let fear rule their lives again. The day of the final battle had arrived. The sun was bright in the sky, and the villagers stood ready to defend their home. Lily felt a mix of fear and determination. She knew that Ethan and his men would come for them, but they had trained hard. They were stronger now. They would fight for their freedom. As the sound of hooves echoed through the village, Lily gathered her friends around her. "We have faced many challenges together," she said, her voice firm. "Today we will show Ethan that we will not be afraid. We will protect our home and each other." The villagers nodded, their faces set in determination. They had come together as a community, and they were ready to fight. Lily felt proud of them. They'd all grown stronger, and she knew they could face whatever came their way. Suddenly, they saw Ethan and his men approaching. They rode in a tight formation, their armor shining in the sunlight. The villagers braced themselves, gripping their weapons tightly. They had created strong barriers of plants and stones, but they knew that Ethan would not back down easily. Ethan rode at the front, a fierce look in his eyes. He had gathered even more soldiers, and he felt confident that this time he would succeed. "Charge!" he shouted, raising his sword. The soldiers surged forward, ready to attack. Lily raised her hands, feeling the energy of the earth beneath her. She called on the plants to grow and strengthen their defenses. Vines shot up from the ground, forming a thick barrier to slow down the attackers. The villagers stood firm behind the barriers, ready to fight. As Ethan's men charged, they were met with a powerful wall of plants. Many of them stumbled, unsure of how to proceed. The villagers took this opportunity to fight back. They pushed forward, using the skills they had learned during their training. "Don't give up," Lily shouted, her voice ringing out over the chaos. "We can win this." The villagers fought bravely, united in their determination to protect their home. The sound of clashing weapons filled the air as they battled against Ethan's forces. Ethan grew furious as he watched his men struggle against the villagers' defenses. He had expected an easy victory, but now he faced a united front. "Push through," he yelled, trying to rally his troops. But fear was creeping into their hearts. They'd seen the strength of the villagers and began to doubt their own abilities. In the midst of the battle, Lily focused her energy on the earth. She summoned the plants to grow even stronger, wrapping around the legs of Ethan's men. The villagers took this chance to fight back, pushing forward with all their strength. Ethan felt his anger rising. He could not let his men see him lose. Confidence. "We are stronger than them," he shouted, trying to keep his soldiers motivated. But deep down, he knew that he was losing control. As the battle raged on, Lily felt a surge of energy. She knew that this was their moment to prove themselves. Together, she called out to her friends. "Show them what we can do." The villagers cheered, their spirits lifted by her words. With renewed strength, they fought back harder. Lily could feel the energy of the earth flowing through her, guiding her actions. She raised her hands, calling on the plants to help them. Vines grew thicker, forming a barrier that pushed back against Ethan's soldiers. Ethan watched in disbelief. As more of his men began to falter, "This cannot be happening," he shouted, frustration boiling inside him. He had always relied on fear and power, but now he faced a different kind of strength, one built on unity and courage. The battle continued, and Lily could see the tide turning. The villagers had come together, fighting for their freedom with everything they had. They were no longer afraid of Ethan or his men. They had learned that true strength came from within and from standing together. As Ethan saw more of his soldiers giving up, he felt rage consume him. Charged forward, determined to confront Lily directly. "You will pay for this," he shouted. As he approached her, his sword raised high. Lily stood her ground, her heart racing. She could feel the energy of the earth around her, ready to protect her. "You don't have to do this, Ethan," she called out. "You can choose to be better. You can choose to help us." But Ethan was too consumed by anger. He swung his sword at her, but Lily raised her hands, and a wall of vines shot up to block the attack. The sword struck the vines, but did not break through. "You are weak," he shouted, but his words lacked conviction. Lily focused her energy, her voice steady. "True strength is not about power. It is about protecting those you care for. You can join us and help build a better future." She could see doubt in his eyes, but he was not ready to back down. With a fierce roar, Ethan pushed against the barrier, trying to break through. But the plants held firm, and Lily felt their energy supporting her. "You will not win," she said, her voice strong. "You cannot defeat us." The villagers rallied behind her, pushing back against Ethan's men. They fought with determination, feeling the power of their unity. As more soldiers surrendered, they began to realize that they were fighting for something greater than themselves. Ethan felt the weight of defeat pressing down on him. He looked around and saw that his men were losing heart. The villagers had banded together, and he was alone. "This is not over," he shouted, but his voice lacked the confidence it once had. Realizing that he could not win, Ethan made a choice. He turned and rode away from the battle, leaving his men behind. "I will return," he called out, but his words sounded hollow. The villagers watched as he disappeared into the distance. As the dust settled, the villagers erupted in cheers. They had fought bravely and won. Lily felt tears of joy fill her eyes. They had protected their home and proven their strength. They were no longer afraid. The villagers gathered around Lily, lifting her up in celebration. "You did it, Lily. You showed him." They cheered. Lily smiled, feeling proud of her friends. They had come together to fight for their freedom, and they had succeeded. In the days that followed, the village began to heal. They worked together to rebuild and strengthen their community. Lily continued to teach her friends about her powers, helping them connect with the earth and use it to protect their home. Ethan's threat had faded. But Lily knew that they must remain vigilant. They had faced a great challenge, but they had also learned the importance of unity and courage. Together, they could face whatever the future held, as the sun set on the horizon. Lily looked around at her friends and neighbors. They had fought for their freedom and had grown stronger together. She felt a sense of hope for the future. They would continue to stand together, and they would never allow fear to take hold again. In that moment, Lily understood that she was no longer just a girl who hid her abilities. She was a leader, a protector, and a symbol of hope for her village. Together they would build a new legacy, one of strength, unity, and the belief that they could overcome anything as long as they stood together.